Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest player profile where today we're going to be taking a look at Strasbourg Forward Ludovic Ajorque, a player valued in the region of around 18 million euros according to his parent club and would add bags of experience to our front line. As usual, we will be discussing his career today, including his stint in the Alsace region of France and how he's been deployed by Strasbourg in recent seasons, as well as potentially how he could be used by Nottingham Forest if he were to sign for the Premier League side. So before we do that, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and let's get started with Ludovic Ajorque. Ludovic Ajorque was born in Réunion, which is an overseas territory of the French Republic located off the coast of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. And he would start his career with local side Excelsior before moving to mainland France and hooking up with the Academy of Angers, failing to make a single appearance for the first team but becoming a regular for their youth teams. Ajorque would then spend the next 2 seasons out on loan with Poisseville and Luçon in the lower divisions of French football, eventually making a move to Clermont in the French second division. And this would really be the breakout for the Frenchman, scoring 20 goals in 70 appearances for Clermont before hooking up with current side Strasbourg as they were recently promoted to Ligue 1. And of course this is where he's been ever since, becoming a reliable Ligue 1 striker for Les Bleus et Blancs, scoring 50 goals in his 4 full seasons at the club, including 16 2 seasons ago and 12 in the previous campaign. And his stats under the hood really complement his goal scoring form. Whilst not being the most impactful player in front of goal, having an XG of around 0.3, he really excels at facilitating the other forwards in his team with 0.25 assists per 90 minutes and around 1.25 chances created as well, putting in the top 10% and 25% of forwards respectively for these metrics. Another important part of the facilitation he does for other forwards is the amount of defensive work he does for a forward. He ranks in the top 3% of forwards for tackles completed and the top 1% for tackles completed in the final third, suggesting he's got the right kind of aggression to help set the press and be an aggressive counter-attacking side like Nottingham Forest. Moreover, this defensive work really sees him excel as an aerial threat, being in the top 10% of forwards for aerial duels completed and generally being quite highly regarded in most of his aerial metrics. And a big part of this, of course, is him being 6'6" tall. He is an absolute unit of a striker and would be a big physical presence up front. And it really just does seem that the 28-year-old would be a perfect fit for this Forest side in terms of his stats. His willingness to defend from the front, as well as ability to provide for his teammates, could really see him shine and allowing to facilitate the likes of Brennan Johnson and Jesse Lingard. With that being said though, let's start talking about how he was deployed for Strasbourg over the course of the last few seasons, as well as potentially how he could be used by Steve Cooper in the Premier League. So Strasbourg predominantly line up in a 5-3-2 shape, something actually quite similar to how Nottingham Forest shape up, except from their midfield is fairly flat, as you can see on the screen, rather than playing a number 10 like the Reds do. And like quite a lot of the teams we talked about in this series so far, the wing-backs are very important in adding extra width to this side and being the main wide outlet for chance creation and progression through the flank. Now they might look to focus play down one side of the pitch, try and progress play up in towards the final third, and this will commit the opposition over to the side, almost sucking them into sort of shifting their team shape over, as you can see with this 4-4-2 here. And this allows the opposite sided fullback to advance into space where really he's going to be potentially unmarked, or at least got the space to potentially change the game in this area. And what they'll try and do is then quickly switch play over to this wing back, sucking the opposition into one side and then quickly using the passing presence of their midfielders to quickly shift the ball back over to the opposite side, where there's going to be a lot of space for their attacking wing back, who can then maybe look for a cross into the box or progress play down into the final third where a better attacking position can find itself. Also worth noting that when the wing back does go and attack, one of the midfielders will just quickly slide across into that area, being vacated by the wing back, just giving a little bit extra coverage and preventing the threat of a counter attack, or at least mitigating the better of their abilities. And quite literally one of the biggest assets in the Strasbourg side is Ajorque. He's really good at just sort of dropping into these little pockets of space and receiving long balls from the defence. He's very good obviously at holding the ball up, being such a big player, and this ability allows him to maybe spin his opposition and just sort of turn into the space as he sort of uses his body control quite well. He's also able to win flick-ons, flicking the ball into space. Say we're playing something closer to a high line with this 4-4-2, they're pressing up. The defender chooses to go long, uses Ajorque as almost like a pin man, just sort of flick the ball on, and then you've got someone like Kevin Gamero for Strasbourg running into that channel and looking to attack the space vacated by bringing a defender onto Ajorque. Of course, one of the really common themes of these videos we've been doing is talking about front two systems and their ability to block off central passing lanes. We've talked about it with Mainz and with the likes of Union Berlin, Nottingham Forest, another good example, and it does force the opposition into the wider areas, and Strasbourg really are no exception. They play a front two system including Ludovic Ajorque, and this ability allows them to force the ball into wider areas where teams are of course less of a threat, and Ajorque's really good at doing this. His positioning generally is very good at sort of cutting off these central passing lanes, and as a team Strasbourg were a very good pressing side, not the most aggressive. If you look at their PPDA, it wasn't particularly high compared to other Ligue 1 sides, but what they were very good at was high turnovers, the most high turnovers in Ligue 1 last season and the most shots from high turnovers in Ligue 1 last season. They were very intelligent with their movement in the final third in a defensive sense, and it led to them taking a lot of shots and getting a lot of goals, and Ajorque was a huge part of that. Now, in terms of Nottingham Forest, he does seem like a pretty seamless fit for the system that Nottingham Forest are playing here, this 3-5-2, and would likely play in the front two alongside Brennan Johnson, facilitating him by dropping into space, winning flick-ons if we get a ball onto the pitch here. Obviously, we've been talking about his ability to win flick-ons, his ability to take the ball into feet and move the ball on quickly. It allows Brennan Johnson to occupy more advanced positions where maybe he can peel into space. Again, assuming a team's playing a higher line, Johnson can almost play off the shoulder of the last defender, get the ball into Ajorque, and his ability to hold the ball up, hold play up, maybe facilitate it into someone like Lingard, and you've got a quick attacking option there through the middle, as Johnson is very quick and his movement off the shoulder of the last man is fantastic. The last thing I kind of want to touch on with Ajorque and how he would fit in this Forest side is how at the latter stages of last season, Forest became a bit kick and chasey, liking to put the ball into the channel for the likes of Sam Surridge to run onto, and I do think this is something that Ajorque would really thrive doing. Not the most mobile striker in the world, but he's usually got quite good movement and positioning in a front two system, and I think he would really thrive at receiving the ball into the channel, holding play up, and sort of dragging defenders over to him, which would obviously create space for the likes of Brennan and Lingard, almost like what Keenan Davis was doing during the latter stage of the season, bypassing the midfield and receiving the ball into feet where he can draw defenders into him, and that just sort of again creates space for the number 10 and the opposite side striker, which is probably going to be Brennan and Lingard, and just gives them the opportunity to attack in greater degrees of space. Overall, due to his tactical flexibility as well as his consistent goal scoring record and his effectiveness in a front two system, I think Ajorque would be a pretty good fit for Nottingham Forest. He's something quite different to what we currently have in the squad, probably something a bit closer to a profile of someone like Keenan Davis, a little bit less mobile than Ajorque, but definitely able to hold the ball up better and facilitate our other forward options. In terms of concerns that I might personally have about him, my only real issues is the fee involved. I think 18 million euros for potentially backup striker is lofty at best and not the best amount of money to be spending on someone like that, especially considering he's 28 years old. He's probably at the peak of his career, and you'd want someone like that to be coming into your squad and starting consistently week in, week out, which I don't think he would be doing with the likes of Ajorque leading the line for Nottingham Forest. But overall, I'm going to give this one a solid B+ in terms of how he would fit this Nottingham Forest squad. A great alternative to the current forward options that we have, and someone who's extremely tactically flexible and used to playing in a similar system that Nottingham Forest are currently playing. Obviously, what drags it down is the fee involved and potentially his age and the likelihood of him starting week in, week out. But generally, I would say this would be a pretty good deal for Nottingham Forest. Of course, though, let me know what you think in that comment section below. Do you think this is potentially a good deal, or potentially one that maybe we should be looking to avoid? It's been rumoured in several publications that Forest are expressing their interest in the French forward, so let me know what you think of him in the comments below. And whilst you're down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video, including my first potential live stream on Friday evening. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, Reds. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will catch you later.